Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 10th, 2019 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. We had our agenda review this evening about 5:30 p.m. We started and we ended at 6:22 p.m. with a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller Herrera, with all voting in the affirmative to adjourn our agenda review. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Guidarelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera? Present. Mr. Signor?
Present.
Mr. Tomazon?
Present.
4 present, 1 absent.
Okay, would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Steve, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So this evening, the first order of business is Nick Labasco is here from CT Mail, and I asked him to come this evening. He's been working on our senior center and what we have to do for improvements and updates. So Nick, go right ahead, please.
As Steve said, I'm from CT Mail. I'm an architect with the company. I was brought on by the town to document the existing conditions at the senior center and to develop contract documents for a public bid that would address repairs and replacements of the damage to the architectural finishes due to the water damage incident. I should note that when we got there in January to first look at it, water damage had already been removed back to sound and dry building materials, and the town's insurance provider had already visited and reviewed the damage with them. During the preliminary investigations performed by CT Mail, as well as an additional review of applicable codes, we determined that there were a number of building systems, including electrical and mechanical, that may have additionally been impacted by the water damage, that while visually looked okay, there are provisions within the code that require further examination and further investigations. So initially, a lot of the work we were doing was due diligence to make sure we were addressing all items there as part of our review. Additional items that were uncovered were still sound and dry materials, but related to fire-rated assemblies, subfloor conditions, among some other items outside the water damage area that required some further actions by us to determine what improvements may be needed. I want to emphasize the building. There was nothing wrong with the building. There was nothing out of compliance prior to the incident. The things we found were uncovered due to the incident and now need to be brought back up to code compliance. Of those items, most of it revolves around electrical systems. Mechanical systems themselves were okay. Some of the ductwork needs to be updated or replaced. And then areas outside the water damage included the community room floor, where we noted a lot of other water damage, but not related to the water incident, that are going to determine some further improvements. So in addition to addressing code compliance issues, we're also trying to take the town's further interest in improving the senior center, which would include the community center floor, some of the bathrooms in that larger community center area, as well as improving the functionality of a couple of spaces that were impacted by the water damage. All that being said, as much as we'd like to do this quickly, we want to do it correctly. So we've had to take a step back and make sure we're addressing everything. Short-term end goals is to have these contract documents and bid documents ready by the end of the month, which would allow bids to come in from contractors by the end of May, and construction possibly starting mid-June. Once these short-term goals have been reached, the long-term goals include a further look at the remaining areas of the space and considering developing a master plan for future improvements. That's all I have.
Should we have any questions?
So is it fair to say that based on all the water damage, once everything was exposed, it was pretty much a necessity to bring everything up to proper code and make sure that everything is where it should be?
Yes,
And unfortunately, those things take time.
yes.
We're on track, we're hoping to go out to bid by the end of May, by the end of May? By the 24th of April. Okay, good, good, so we have timelines.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you're aware of is that we have a couple of accounts, if you will, of funds. So we have money from Senator Amador, we have funds from the insurance recovery, and a lot of your work also has to do with the insurance recovery, right?
Yes.
So we have to make sure that we get what is due to the town through those efforts as well. So I guess anyone else? No? All right, Nick, thanks very much for coming this evening. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Good news. Thank you. Okay, now for public comment, privilege of the floor, Mr. Shealy. I wish we had that.
Jack, you want me to help you get up?
Is this okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm here to ask questions and find out what's happening with our senior center. At the meeting that Evan and Mr. Gillarelli attended, we made it perfectly clear that we do not want to give up the brass rail. We want that upstairs on the second floor, separate from the downstairs auditorium room. And we don't want the two kitchens combined in together. We know you got $198,000 from the water damage and so forth for the brass rail. And we want, all have to be spent there, but a part of it so that we can have the brass rail back on the second floor like we did before, the small brass rail. We also noticed that recently dishes have all been moved down into the cupboards in the kitchen on the main floor by the auditorium. Pots, pans, dishes, all that kind of stuff into the cupboards down there. That does not give us good feelings that you're not going to try to just have one kitchen on the first floor. So, the members are very, very upset that there's even thoughts of eliminating the brass rail. There's many seniors that attend breakfast there, go in for breakfast and lunch and so forth, and we want that still to remain the same as it was before. So please do not eliminate the brass rail restaurant on the second floor. There's no need to make other meeting rooms out of that room. There's plenty of rooms there that aren't used every single day for meetings and so forth that could be used for meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Hey, my buddy.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sure, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. Okay, let's move into the resolutions. Resolution 102.
Adopt the meeting minutes from the March 27, 2019 Town Board meeting.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 10219 passes. Resolution 10319.
Amend resolution number 90.19 to appoint individuals to various seasonal and/or part-time positions at the indicated rates of pay for the year 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Miller Herrera. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 103-19 passes. 104-19.
Authorize the supervisor to enter an agreement with Chase & Companies, 547 River Street, Troy, New York, 12180, to provide additional construction phase administration and observation services in an amount not to exceed $20,950.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 104-19 passes. 105.
Authorize the supervisor to enter into an amended agreement with KB Group of New York, Inc., 100 Great Oaks Boulevard, Suite 114, Albany, New York, 12208, to facilitate the financial and grant administration service requirements related to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the water system improvements.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Signor. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Christo. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 105-19 passes. Resolution 106-19.
Authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Jason Hovack to provide information technology services to the Rotterdam Police Department and Justice Court for the years 2019 and 2020 at an hourly rate of $120 for a 2-year period commencing January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2020.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 107-19.
Appoint individuals as members of the Town of Rotterdam Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Miller Herrera. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Christo. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 107-19 passes. Resolution 108-19.
Declare the town board as lead agency and authorize the town planner to prepare, file, publish, and distribute all documents necessary to comply with NYCRR Part 617 and State Environmental Quality Review in connection with the amendment to existing Helderberg Meadows Planned Residential District, PRD.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 108-19 passes. Resolution 109-19.
Call for a public hearing to be held Wednesday, April 24th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirvin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2019 for the following purpose: to allow for an amendment to Phase 5 of the Helderberg Meadows Planned Residential District, PRD, located at 3379 Gilderland Avenue, which is the portion of the PRD located on the northwest side of Gilderland Avenue. Applicants are requesting the elimination of 58 approved single-family lots to allow for a cluster development of 124 condominium units on a private roadway network. Modification is proposed to include an additional plus or minus 5.52 acres of adjoining lands NF of Joseph Giannetti, tax parcel number 58.19-1-10, currently zoned B1 retail business into the PRD.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Public hearing.
Yeah, public hearing. Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 109-19 passes. So under consent items, we have 110-19, 111-19, 112-19, 113-19, 114-19. They all have to do mostly with awarding bids that were opened last week, 2 weeks ago, to various suppliers for highway materials, and for our tree cutting services, and then also for the purchase of a asphalt hot box reclaimer trailer unit for the Rotterdam Highway Department. So may I have a motion for resolutions, 110 through 115, and 115 is for the town clerk's report.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we approve items 110, 19, 111, 19, 112, 19, 113, 19, 114, 19, and 115, 19 as consent items.
Okay, so a motion by Mr. Christo, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question on resolutions 110 through 115? No? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli is absent. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolutions 110 through 115, 19 pass. Anyone have anything under committee reports or miscellaneous this evening?
Briefly, Mr. Supervisor.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Wanted to announce that the 14th Annual Canal Cleanup Sweep at the Kiwanis Boat Launch on Route 5S is scheduled for Saturday, April 27th, from 9 a.m. to noon. Essentially, myself as being on the Parks Committee and on behalf of the town, we're looking for anyone who wants to volunteer. We're looking at this as a good opportunity for those students, for example, who need community service hours, either through school, honor society, clubs, religious instructions. So anybody who wants to volunteer, come when you want, leave when you want, obviously at around noon. We'll be providing, all the rakes, the bags, there'll be food, drinks, donuts, shirts. So anybody who's interested, you can call Rosalind Warlick at 518-355-3203. And you can give your name and your email address if you're interested. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do you want to just mention briefly the ball game? Do we want to talk about that some more?
Well, I'll let you do that since I really haven't been approached to play on this. I don't know why it's my responsibility to have.
You have been approached.
No, I just talked with Kyle. Kyle knows I'm a free agent, so my understanding is Mr. Lupi is heading this. Mr. Lupi has not approached me. Apparently, he does not recognize the skills, so that's going to be his loss come time for the game. So, Kyle, I'm ready.
So
You right, snooze, you lose, Kyle. Thank you very much for asking me to play for you.
We'll get more out into the media and whatnot, but just to mark the date for yourselves, it's Saturday, May 11th. It'll be a Town of Rotterdam's baseball game. There are three teams that are being put together. There is the team for the police department, a team for the fire departments in the town, and a town team as well. And I don't know exactly how this is going to work yet. I don't know if we're flipping a coin to see who plays first, or whether we're going to have two games going at once, or there are all kinds of other things going on, Lieutenant, as we're.
The first game must be at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, thank you. So first game 11 o'clock at the Babe Ruth Fields here, off of Putri Avenue, in Memorial Park. So hopefully you can come and watch a good game. We had a game last year. The police department won. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes this year. And what else do we have? We have our first comprehensive plan committee meeting tomorrow night here at 6:30. I believe 6:30. And so we're embarking on updating our comprehensive plan for the town. It'll really be, tomorrow night will be more or less an introduction of who is on the committee, and also kind of spelling out a little bit of the process of what will occur over the next year and a half or so. And we will be putting out a RFQ, I believe, for a firm to assist, a consulting engineer to assist in the entire process of updating our comprehensive plan. So that will transpire, begin tomorrow night. There's more to come on the 2020 celebration. We are trying to find, I shouldn't say we're trying to find space, we are we think we know where we're gonna get some space and start to bring different artifacts, if you will, photographs and other things that we have here in different storage areas in the town and so on, to a central location so that anyone who wants to visit there can look at what we have on display. And also, the 2020 committee, the celebration committee, is coming up with some ideas of how to involve everyone in town for this year and into next year for our 200th anniversary, which will be on April 14th of 2020. And as you're aware, I know that we're pricing rope for the tug of war. It's extremely expensive, but I believe the town of Glenville is going to split the cost with us. And so we're supposedly going to have a tug of war in July of this year between the town of Rotterdam and the town of Glenville. And then we'll do another tug of war next year.
Mr.
For the,
Supervisor,
big prize.
we've been looking for volunteers to keep the Glenville side honest this year and this time.
We won't need, well, and so you had been to prior meetings here where we talked about this, there are rumors about what happened in 1970, and because none of us were there at the time, we can't really talk about what may have occurred. But
You mean that rumor about a fire truck on the Glenville side pulling out people into the river?
so there was a rumor about what happened at that time, but now with cell phones and being able to record, hopefully we'll have a lot of good memories of these times where we can keep them for a long time, have some fun. So there'll be some official notification coming out for volunteers for that as well, for those tug of wars. John Woodward, for those who don't know, John Woodward is our chair, if you will, of that group, and our town historian as well, thank you. And so he's working to coordinate all that. We have some great people on the committee, and so more to come along those lines as well. I just want to just double check my calendar here, make sure that I'm not forgetting something else that I should be mentioning tonight.
While he's doing that, Evan has agreed to be the anchor on the...
Okay, so
Right?
I know what you're getting when you go to Tops. We're good. I think that's it. We have a couple opening days coming up. We have I have my calendar, I don't know if you have others, but opening day for the Rotterdam Girls Softball League is at 2 o'clock at the Esposito Park on April 28th. So Sunday, April 28th is the opening day for girls softball. The Rotterdam Senior Citizen Prom at Draper Middle School is on Friday, May 3rd, 5:30.
The fourth is Carmen.
Saturday, May 4th, 11:38, or I think it's at noon, but I think we have it down for 11:30, so we're all there, time by the parking spot, I think. Is a Rotterdam Carmen Little League opening day. So that's at the Leonard C. White Park, also known as Carmen Park, off of Hamburg Street. And I thought we had the invite in here for, I don't see it though, for the Challenger, yeah. I don't see it. I think, could that come in yet or no? They didn't come in yet? Okay. So that'll be one of these weekends, between now and Mother's Day too, typically. So sometimes it's on the same days, one or the other, so one of the other ball teams. So so those are the dates I have of some upcoming events for us.
Mr. Supervisor, motion to adjourn?
Okay, so we have a motion for adjournment by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. All in favor signify by saying aye for adjournment. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you everyone for coming this evening. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.